The next topic we're going to discuss is that of bash shell arithmetic. So the first thing I should prefix this video with is that everything we are going to cover has to do with integer arithmetics only. Okay, if you want to do arithmetics with floating point number in the bash shell, you are going to have to use some external tools, like for example BC is a calculator command pretty much. This would allow you to do any sort of calculation arithmetics you want on floating point numbers, integers, and whatnot. What we are going to cover in this video is only the syntaxes that are available in the bash shell and for bash scripts as well that allow us to do integer syntax. So the first tool we are going to discuss is the expr tool, expr. So if you do a type expr, it's going to tell you, well, this is an external tool, okay? So /usr/binexp, and it can be used from the shell command line or from within shell scripts to do simple calculations. So by default, the expr tool is going to actually display its results. So if I do, for example, expr 5 plus 3, okay, notice the space here between the operands and the operator, I get the answer 8. Okay, so nothing really like transcendental there. If I have like the 4 basic operation accessible to me, so I can do 5 plus 3, 5 minus 3, and I can do something like 5 divided by 3. So again, we're dealing with integers, right? So 5 divided by 3 is going to be 1 because 3 goes into 5 one time, and then we're talking about decimals. Similarly, I have also a modulus operator, which gives me the remainder of the integer division. So 5 divided by 3 integer division is 1. Okay, what's the remainder of that integer division? 2. So these are the basic operators, and there's one that I purposefully saved for last. It's a multiplication operator. If I do 5 times 3, well, that's the result is syntax error. So I cannot do that like this. I have to actually use the backslash to neutralize, to escape the star, so that it's not interpreted by the bash as a globing character, okay? So it's not trying to expand it, you know, based on the content of the current working directory as far as file names and folder names are concerned. So if I do it properly like this, then yes, it's working. A few things you have to be careful about. The syntax is a little bit fiddly, okay? So if you say, well, first let's start with the last example, since we were talking about, you know, escaping the star symbol here. So you can do like exp with double quotes, okay? The only issue is that exp with double quote is going to be seen as a single argument by exp, and exp is going to say, oh, so you want me to just display the expression 5 times 3. Similarly, if I was doing something like, you know, 5 plus 3 and I removed the extra spaces, same thing. Every time exp doesn't recognize, you know, a numerical expression that it can handle, it's going to just output, you know, whatever you gave it, okay? So that's really not what we want. So the syntax is a little bit fiddly, and we'll see other tools that are actually much nicer syntax-wise. So you have to be careful to use correct spacing between operators and operands, all right? And in the case of the multiplication operator, you have to backslash it, you have to neutralize it, you have to escape it, okay? So right now we have a tool that can display on the screen some result of evaluating arithmetic expression. I should say integer-based arithmetic expression. Most of the time, you're going to want to assign those things to variable, for example, inside of scripts and stuff like that. So you can do that. You can do that using the command syntax, you know, to assign a variable. So result equal 42, and we would have now a variable result that contains the value 42. Okay, so we are going to use that same syntax, but instead of providing a number directly, we are going to, for example, use the backtick command substitution syntax, and we're going to say, I want you to execute 5 plus 4. Okay, and I'm going to backtick it as well here. So quick reminder, this backtick syntax backquote syntax means that as the command exp 5 plus 4 is going to be executed, and the result of executing this command is going to be assigned to the variable result. So if I do again an echo result, 5 plus 4 was 9. Perfect. Okay, that worked. Obviously, I can use different syntax for command substitution. So there's only one other syntax that we talked about that is actually the one that's generally preferred to the backquote, backtick notation. So this is a $sign, opening parentheses, closing parentheses syntax that allows you to, again, specify a command you want to execute, and you take the result of executing this entire command here, and you assign that result to the variable result. Okay, so if I run this, display the content of result, same thing, it's 9. Okay, so this is actually the preferred method with that parentheses notation. So the only one thing I had to add on this expr command is that, well, if you do something like exp, for example, and I think I already prepared a file named 504. Yes, there we go. I have a file here which name is 504, okay, that I just created for the express purpose to have something in my current working directory that would interact, that would actually, how to say, hinder the exp expression here. If I type something like this, what is funny is, so I'm making two mistakes, right? I'm not spacing correctly operators and operands, and then I'm not backquoting the star operator. So if I do something like that, what I wanted you to keep in mind is that the shell, before to call the external command exp, the shell is going to expand the globing character star. So it's going to try to expand any file name or folder name in the current working directory that matches the pattern 5*4. And in our case, what's funny is that we have one such file. So when you type exp 5*4 and you have in your current working directory a file that is named 504, then it's just like if you typed this. Okay, it has been substituted by the shell. The 5*4 has been substituted by the file name 504. But unfortunately, after the substitution is done, we pass the argument to exp, and so exp receives a number 504, and then it says, okay, that's fine. You give me 504, I print the result 504. Okay, so there is a little interesting quirk here to using the shell and understanding how the globing expansions are going to work, and how what you type, like 5*4, can be misinterpreted by meaning a file name, 504, and then that can be passed in turn to a command, in this case exp, that is going to take 504 and be happy to claim that this is a result it computed. Okay, so there are a couple of successions of little, glitches here, piling up one on top of the other and resulting in that kind of results. Okay, so to avoid all of that, spacing. Okay, and if you do the spacing and you forgot to escape the star, it's going to tell you something, and then escape the star operator and you're good. Last little remark, no exponentiation in exp, so I cannot do things like 5 up to exponent 4. Nope, and I cannot do, even if I try to backquote it, it's not available in exp. So we're going to see other tools that are going to allow us actually to do this kind of operation more conveniently.